The images were released at 3:47 a.m. Eastern Time. Within minutes, the internet exploded. What the James Webb Space Telescope captured wasn't just a comet, it was something that shouldn't exist. For centuries, humanity has asked the ultimate question: are we alone in the universe? Philosophers debated it, scientists searched for it, religions built entire cosmologies around it. But on April 12, 2025, when a series of high-resolution images of the interstellar object 3I Atlas were quietly uploaded to NASA's secure servers, that question received an answer that would shatter every assumption we've ever held. The object we've been calling a comet, designation C2024S1, discovered by the Atlas survey system in Hawaii, had been under intense observation for months. After initial reports suggested anomalies in its trajectory and composition, the world's most powerful telescopes turned their gaze toward this mysterious visitor from beyond our solar system. What they found would rewrite not just astronomy textbooks, but challenge the very foundation of our understanding of life itself. The new images, captured during an unprecedented 96-hour continuous observation campaign, revealed details at a resolution never before achieved for an interstellar object. And hidden within those pixels, processed through layers of spectral analysis and computational enhancement, was evidence that would force humanity to confront an uncomfortable truth. We are being watched, and we have been for a very, very long time. The decision to dedicate nearly 4 full days of James Webb Space Telescope time to a single object was unprecedented. Dr. Rebecca Martinez, the observation coordinator at the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore, recalls the tense meetings that led to the decision. We had dozens of competing proposals, galaxies forming at the edge of the observable universe, exoplanet atmospheres, black holes. But when the preliminary spectroscopic data from 3I Atlas came back, everything changed. The preliminary data Martinez refers to came from ground-based observations in February 2025. Multiple observatories, Keck in Hawaii, the Very Large Telescope in Chile, and the Gran Telescopio Canarias in Spain, had all independently detected something impossible: organized radio emissions coming from the object. Not random noise, not natural plasma interactions. Organized patterns, sequences, something that looked disturbingly like communication. The international astronomical community went into emergency session mode. The International Astronomical Union convened an urgent meeting in Geneva. NASA, ESA, Roscosmos, CNSA, and ISRO, agencies that rarely agreed on anything, formed an unprecedented coalition. Within 72 hours, they had commandeered observation time on every major telescope on Earth and in orbit. But it was James Webb that would deliver the killing blow to our cosmic loneliness. The telescope's near-infrared camera, operating at wavelengths invisible to human eyes, began its observation sequence on April 8, 2025. The mid-infrared instrument followed, capable of detecting heat signatures and molecular compositions. The near-infrared spectrograph dissected every photon of light bouncing off the object, breaking it down into its constituent wavelengths. And finally, the fine guidance sensor tracked every microscopic change in position and orientation. Dr. Chen Wei, lead scientist on the imaging team, described the process. We weren't just taking pictures, we were performing a complete diagnostic scan. Every instrument, every sensor, every capability of Webb was focused on this one object. It was like performing an MRI, a CT scan, and a full blood panel simultaneously, but on something millions of miles away. The data began streaming back to Earth at 4:23 p.m. on April 11th. The processing computers at the Space Telescope Science Institute worked through the night. Teams of specialists, planetary scientists, spectroscopists, image processors, data analysts worked in rotating shifts, each layer of analysis revealing more impossible details. By 3 a.m. on April 12th, the first processed images were ready. What they showed would keep everyone in that building awake for the next 48 hours straight. The first image that circulated internally showed the overall structure of 3I Atlas. At first glance, it looked like what you'd expect from a comet, an irregular, roughly spherical nucleus surrounded by a diffuse coma of gas and dust. But when the resolution was enhanced and false color filters applied to highlight different materials, the true nature of the object emerged. The nucleus wasn't solid. It was hollow, or more accurately, it was a shell containing something inside. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a structural analyst who had worked on satellite design before joining NASA, immediately recognized what she was seeing. The outer layer is definitely natural material, ice, rock, organic compounds, but the geometry underneath is wrong, way too regular. There are right angles, perfectly smooth surfaces, and what appears to be panels, like solar panels, but not quite. The infrared imaging revealed even more disturbing details. The interior of the object was warmer than it should be, not by much, just a few degrees Kelvin, but in the near absolute zero environment of interstellar space, any internal heat source was significant. Natural comets cool down over time as their radioactive elements decay. This object was maintaining a steady temperature. Something inside was generating energy. But it was the spectroscopic analysis that truly shocked the scientific community. Dr. Amara Okonkwo, a molecular spectroscopist, ran the data through her analysis software 3 times, convinced there was an error. "We were detecting molecular signatures that shouldn't exist on a natural object," she explained in a later interview. "Complex hydrocarbons arranged in patterns that suggested organization. Long-chain molecules that looked like DNA. Not identical to Earth DNA, but following similar information encoding principles." The images showed something else too. On the surface of the object, there were markings, not random impacts or erosion patterns, but deliberate structures, geometric shapes arranged in sequences. When the team applied pattern recognition algorithms originally developed for analyzing ancient hieroglyphs, they found something that made their blood run cold. The patterns repeated. They had structure, grammar, syntax. Someone had written on the surface of 3I Atlas, and that writing had survived the journey between the stars. While structural engineers and physicists analyzed the geometric anomalies, astrobiologists were examining something even more profound. The spectroscopic data contained signatures of molecules that are considered biomarkers, indicators of life. Dr. Sarah Kimani, formerly of SETI and now leading NASA's astrobiology division, assembled a team to analyze what they were calling the biological layer. What they found challenged every assumption about what constitutes life. "We detected phospholipids," Kimani explained at a hastily arranged closed-door briefing. "These are molecules that form cell membranes in every living thing on Earth. We also found amino acids, not just the simple ones you might find in a meteorite, but complex proteins, folded proteins, the kind that serve specific functions in living organisms." The implications were staggering. Either 3I Atlas had somehow captured living organisms during its journey through space, or, far more disturbing, it was designed to carry them. The object wasn't just a probe, it was an ark. Further analysis revealed something that sent shockwaves through the biological community. The DNA-like molecules detected earlier weren't random, they contained information. Dr. Michael Rodriguez, a bioinformatician from Stanford, applied genetic sequencing algorithms to the spectroscopic patterns. "It's organized like a genome," he reported. "There are sequences that look like genes, regions that could encode for proteins, even what might be regulatory elements that control when those genes turn on and off." But whose genome was it? The patterns didn't match any known organism on Earth. The base pairs, if that's what they were, used different chemistry. The coding was more efficient, more compact, able to store more information in less space. It was DNA too, theirs, designed by something that had billions of years more experience with biological engineering than we did. The most unsettling discovery came from thermal imaging of the object's interior. There were temperature fluctuations, rhythmic changes in heat signatures that repeated every 4.7 hours. Dr. Elena Volkov, who had previously studied circadian rhythms in extremophiles, recognized the pattern immediately. "Those aren't random thermal variations," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Those are metabolic cycles. Something inside that object is alive and it's breathing." As scientists grappled with the implications of what they'd found, historians and archaeologists began connecting dots that had been invisible until now. Dr. Marcus Ashford, a historian specializing in ancient astronomical records, started pulling files that had been gathering dust for decades. "We've always had reports of unusual celestial visitors in historical records," Ashford explained. "Objects that didn't behave like normal comets, stars that appeared and disappeared on schedules that didn't match any known astronomical phenomena. But we dismissed them as observational errors or myth or exaggeration. Now we have to reconsider everything." Ancient Chinese astronomical records from the Han Dynasty described a guest star that appeared in 165 BCE, visible for exactly 23 days before vanishing. The description matches Three Eye Atlas's spectral signature almost perfectly. Babylonian tablets from 1200 BCE reference a wandering light that carried the words of the gods, eerily similar to the written patterns on the object's surface. But it was a discovery in Egypt that truly connected the ancient past to our present crisis. Dr. Amara Nkrumah, an archaeologist working at the newly excavated Temple of Thoth near Luxor, found a chamber that had been sealed for over 3,000 years. On the walls were detailed star charts, far more accurate than Egypt should have been capable of producing. And in the center of one chart, highlighted with gold leaf and surrounded by hieroglyphic text, was an object with a tail. The text was translated by Professor James Whitmore of Oxford. "The Star of Return. It comes when the world must change. It carries the seed of distant heavens. Those who understand its message will be lifted up. Those who ignore it will be left behind when the sky opens." The date carved next to the chart, 1365 BCE. Exactly 23 astronomical cycles before Three Eye Atlas's first confirmed appearance in modern records. Indigenous cultures around the world had similar stories. The Hopi spoke of the blue star Kachina that would appear before a time of great purification. Aboriginal Australian traditions described a sky canoe that visited Earth to check on the progress of humanity. The Maori knew it as Te Waka Orangi, the vessel of the heavens that traveled between worlds. Were these stories about Three Eye Atlas? Had it been visiting Earth for thousands of years, checking on us, observing our development? And if so, what was it checking for? As the reality of Three Eye Atlas's artificial and biological nature became undeniable, attention shifted to a crucial question. Could we communicate with it? The organized radio emissions detected earlier were studied in exhaustive detail. Dr. Malcolm Hayes, a cryptographer from the National Security Agency, temporarily assigned to NASA, led a team attempting to decode the signals. "It's definitely not random," Hayes confirmed. "There's structure, repetition with variation, information density far too high to be natural. But the encoding is unlike anything in our databases." The team tried every known decryption method. They applied linguistic analysis, mathematical pattern recognition, even machine learning algorithms trained on thousands of Earth languages. Nothing worked. The transmissions remained stubbornly incomprehensible. Then Dr. Suki Nakamura, a young postdoc from Tokyo University, had an insight. "We're assuming they're trying to communicate in a way we'd understand," she said during a brainstorming session. "But what if the communication isn't for us? What if it's talking to something else?" Her theory was radical. Three Eye Atlas might be communicating with other probes, other artifacts left throughout the galaxy by the same civilization. Earth might just be one stop on a vast network of monitoring stations. The transmissions weren't meant for us to decode. We were simply observing a conversation we weren't part of. But there was another possibility, one that Dr. Kimani raised in a private meeting with NASA leadership. What if it's not communicating outward at all? What if those signals are internal? What if we're detecting the thoughts of whatever intelligence is inside that object? The implications were staggering. If Three Eye Atlas contained not just biological organisms, but conscious thinking beings, then humanity was facing first contact. Not with a radio signal from a distant star, but with visitors who had traveled across the cosmic void to reach us. NASA made a decision. They would attempt active communication. Using the Goldstone Deep Space Network antenna in California, they would send a message directly to Three Eye Atlas. The message was carefully crafted. Mathematical constants, basic physics, a prime number sequence, the universal language of science. Then images, the structure of DNA, pictures of humans, representations of Earth. The transmission was sent on April 18, 2025 at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. Given 3I Atlas's current distance of approximately 2.3 astronomical units, the signal would take about 19 minutes to reach the object. If there was a response, it would take another 19 minutes to return. Total round trip, 38 minutes. At mission control, hundreds of scientists and officials waited in absolute silence. 11:38 a.m. came and went. No response. Then 11:39, 11:40. Disappointment began to set in. Maybe there was no one home. Maybe the object was just automated, a long-dead artifact from a civilization that had disappeared millions of years ago. At 11:41 a.m., every radio telescope on Earth detected a massive burst of energy from 3I Atlas. Not a simple radio signal, but a complex multi-frequency transmission that lasted exactly 3.4159 seconds. Pi, the mathematical constant, a direct acknowledgement of our message. Someone was home, and they had just said hello. The confirmed response from 3I Atlas triggered reactions across every spectrum of human society. Within hours of NASA releasing a carefully worded statement confirming bi-directional communication with an object of apparent extraterrestrial origin, the world transformed. Stock markets initially plummeted as panic selling swept through exchanges, then rebounded to record highs as investors realized the technological implications. Defense stocks soared. Space technology companies saw their valuations triple overnight. Religious organizations held emergency councils. The United Nations Security Council convened in permanent session. Public reaction was divided and chaotic. In Times Square, thousands gathered spontaneously, some celebrating, some praying, some simply standing in shock. Similar scenes played out in Tokyo, London, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, and every major city on Earth. Social media became unusable, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of posts. Doris' first contact trended globally, with over 2 billion mentions in the first 24 hours. Misinformation spread like wildfire. Claims that 3I Atlas was a hostile invasion force. Allegations that governments had known for years and covered it up. Conspiracy theories linking the object to every unsolved mystery in human history. Videos purporting to show alien messages decoded from the transmissions went viral, each contradicting the others. Dr. Lisa Zhang, a sociologist at Harvard who specialized in mass psychology, had predicted this response. When fundamental assumptions about reality are shattered, people respond in one of three ways: denial, panic, or transformation. We're seeing all three simultaneously on a global scale. This is the largest paradigm shift in human history. Religious reactions were particularly complex. The Vatican released a statement declaring that the existence of life beyond Earth in no way contradicts Catholic doctrine and may indeed reveal new dimensions of God's creation. Islamic scholars convened at Al-Azhar University to discuss the theological implications. Hindu leaders pointed to ancient texts that had always acknowledged countless inhabited worlds. Some evangelical groups declared 3I Atlas a demonic deception, while others saw it as a sign of the end times. Scientists were divided too. Some celebrated the confirmation of their lifelong belief that we weren't alone. Others worried about the implications. Dr. Martin Holbrook, a theoretical physicist from Cambridge, expressed a common concern. A civilization capable of sending probes across interstellar space is thousands, maybe millions of years ahead of us technologically. That creates a massive power imbalance. We're like ants discovering that humans exist, and we have no idea if we're being studied or farmed. The most profound impact was philosophical. Humanity's place in the universe had fundamentally changed. We were no longer alone, no longer the inevitable endpoint of cosmic evolution. Somewhere out there, someone else had looked at the stars and decided to reach out. And they had done it so long ago that their probe had been visiting Earth for millennia before we even had writing. On April 25, 2025, James Webb captured one last image during what would be 3I Atlas's final visible period before it moved too far from Earth for detailed observation. The telescope's instruments captured something that hadn't been visible in previous images, possibly because the object had changed orientation. On what appeared to be the main body of the structure, hidden beneath the cometary disguise, there was a panel. And on that panel, clearly visible in the high-resolution image, was a symbol. It was elegant in its simplicity. A circle with a point in the center, from which radiated 8 lines of varying lengths. Each line ended in a smaller circle. The symbol was gold against a dark background, preserved perfectly despite the eons of its journey. Dr. Tanaka recognized it first. "That's a map," she whispered. "The center point is a star, the lines are planetary orbits, and one of those circles," she pointed with a shaking hand, "has a marking on it. That's Earth. They're showing us where they came from. Or maybe where they think we came from." But it was what sat next to the symbol that truly stopped everyone's breath. Next to the map, rendered in what appeared to be pictographic writing, were 3 figures. Bipedal, 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Unmistakably humanoid. And below them, carved in the same style as the figures, was a sequence of marks that mathematical analysis quickly revealed to be numbers. Numbers that, when properly interpreted, gave a date. A date in our past. 74,000 years ago, the time of the Toba super-eruption, when human population crashed to perhaps 10,000 individuals, a genetic bottleneck that nearly ended our species. Or the time when, according to this message, someone intervened. The implications were impossible to ignore. 3i Atlas wasn't just studying us, it was checking on us, monitoring our progress, because whoever sent it had been here before. They had been here when we were on the brink of extinction. And maybe, just maybe, they had decided we were worth saving. The images of 3i Atlas have given us something humanity has sought since we first looked up at the night sky and wondered. Proof. Proof that life exists beyond our small blue world. Proof that intelligence has risen elsewhere in the cosmos. Proof that we are part of something larger, more magnificent, and more terrifying than we ever imagined. But they've also given us questions that will haunt us for generations. Who sent this probe? Why are they watching us? What do they want? And perhaps most unsettling of all, if they've been monitoring us for 74,000 years, watching our progress from stone tools to space telescopes, from cave paintings to quantum computers, what are they waiting for? As 3i Atlas continues its journey back into the darkness between stars, carrying with it our message and whatever report it will deliver to its makers, we stand at a threshold. Behind us lies the entire history of human civilization when we thought we were alone. Before us lies an unknown future where we must confront the reality that we never were. The images have changed everything. Now we wait to see what comes next.